Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the NCAA 2004 Alabama Crimson Tide Dynasty mode on the channel. And we are moving right along, folks, after a bittersweet end to year 13, taking on Michigan in the Capital One Bowl and grabbing a win. We are now moving ahead. Gotta look ahead. Just gotta look ahead, man. We gotta get back in the national title game, which Colorado State won. They finally got over the hump. I think they played. I always want to say that they've played more than they have, but I don't think they have. I think that's like the second or third time maybe they've won, because I know we beat them the previous year, but they finally went back and they figured it out here. Dre Gates, we're going to look over the stats here. Dre Gates had himself an amazing year, of course, but got to limit the turnovers. That's the biggest thing, man. Really got to limit the turnovers, because we turned the ball over a lot. And I think that ended up really kind of hurting us down the stretch here, especially in Atlanta. Those interceptions really kind of became a thorn in our side here. But looking over the rushing attack, we had a great rushing attack between McClintock and Blackman. Both of them put up amazing numbers. And even our receiving core, Ryan Reynolds ended up having an amazing year. Same with Darius Vann. Darius Vann was a guy who we talked about a lot between Vann and Hines. You know, they had a lot of contribution to receptions and yardage, but they just didn't really have a lot of touchdowns. And that's evident, as you can see, with over 1,100 yards and only 5 touchdowns. So it's been an interesting year receiving wise and just how we spread the ball out, but it's still a decent season all around. It can't be super mad here. Now we're looking over the offensive line. I feel like we allowed more sacks this year than normal, a lot more pressure. I think that was a big problem with Dre Gates, and as you can see across our line, that might have been the case. We have a lot of newer, younger guys on our offensive line, so that's probably one of the places where we're most youngest, honestly. There's only a couple seniors, I think. I think it's our guard positions, but it is okay. So Joel Davis, in his senior season, leading the team defensively in almost every single category and metric. Decent year for him. Even 2 interceptions. You gotta love it, man. But Joshua Bowen, of course, leading the team in INTs with 5 of them things, man. And that gives him 12 in his career as he finishes as a member of the Tide. And Dave Dennis, as a junior, gets second-team All-American honors. He's been very consistent kicking for us, which, I'm fortunate about having a consistent kicker, because it's not something you focus on a lot, but it is something that is very much important. So, looking over the SEC standings, we, of course, sit at the top, even though South Carolina is your champions. Arkansas, the only other team with double-digit wins. Everyone else, man, oh my God. Just look at this field. Goodness gracious, man. Everyone 7 wins or worse, not great, man. Mississippi State's still struggling to find wins anywhere that they can. Kentucky doesn't win a single conference game. Yeah, brutal. I don't know how the SEC became such a conference of have and have not in this series, man. It's kind of annoying. I'm looking forward to playing in a smaller conference in the next NCAA series, just maybe to avoid that and get away from that. I don't know. Hopefully. But Colorado State takes the #1 spot in the country. Notre Dame is second. We move up to third after beating Michigan. Ohio State moves up to fourth. Virginia Tech drops to 5. West Virginia up to 6. Maryland drops to 7. South Carolina moves up to 8 after winning their bowl game. Arkansas moves up to 9, so more SC royalty up here in the top 10. Oregon State falling to 10 rounds it out. We have Indiana, Michigan, Southern Miss dropping all the way to 13 after losing to the Air Force. Goodness gracious, man. What an interesting top 25 that we're looking at. Air Force gets ranked off of that victory, so good for them. Good for them. And then Washington State also getting ranked here. TCU climbing in at 23, and then Texas A&M also getting ranked here after not being ranked, and Wisconsin rounding things out here in the top 25. So a very interesting change in the top 25. We're getting a little bit of parity. The teams are changing a little bit. The top teams are still the top teams, but we are seeing a little bit new faces like TCU and Indiana kind of slip in there. So that's cool to see. And for some reason, Dave Dennis thinks that he can take his talents to the NFL. I have no idea why. He's a good kicker, but why would a kicker leave early? I don't understand it. It makes no sense. But outside of that, the biggest thing that we're losing here is receiving, man. We're losing our 3 best receivers and our starting tight end. So we have depth at the tight end position, so I know we'll be okay there. But the receiving core, again, another position we have some depth at, but not enough to replace Ryan Reynolds, Darius Vann, and David Hines. That's not, no. We do not have that kind of depth. So chances are, guys, we're going to be in a bit of a tough situation trying to rebuild this offense. And I tried, guys, with recruiting with receivers. I tried. We'll get through it, guys. We'll get through it. So we get the number 11th ranked receiving prospect in the country, which is important. We do replace Dave Dennis at kicker. I did add another tight end, just, as a formality, add a safety here. If there were other top prospects that wanted to come here, like the top center wanted to come here, so I grabbed them. Also, the top tight end wanted to come here, so I grabbed them, because why not? But I really tried to just focus on receiving core and just kind of gave up on the rest of the 5 stars that wanted to be here because we have a very young team. But yeah, we lose out on the number 1 recruiting receiver here. He goes to Texas, massive loss. We lose out on the number 2, who goes to Notre Dame, which is even a bigger loss. We lose to the number 4 receiver to USC. He's from California, so we can't be surprised. We lose the number 5 receiver to West Virginia. We lose the number 3 receiver to UCF. He flipped at the end, man. We had him, and he flipped to UCF. I don't know why. We lose out on the number 7 and the number 6 to Virginia Tech. One of those also flipped. I think it was the 6th. We were also really high up on him. And I even tried to grab that 4-star. Ended up going to La Tech, man. Like, what are we doing, man? And Colorado State absolutely loads their recruiting class. So the 11 5-stars, man. So the defending champs might be around to stay, man, out of the Mountain West. And then Notre Dame also loads up with 11 5-stars. And then Texas and Maryland get 11 4-stars. So we got 4 teams that are just absolutely loading up for the final few seasons of this series, man. We might not be safe anymore as one of the only blue bloods in this sim, man. It's starting to get a little bit testy here. And so some of the other teams that we saw that I mentioned, like West Virginia and USC, are up here in the top 25. Of course, familiar faces like Oklahoma and Ohio State, even Virginia Tech are also still here. Some of the smaller schools that have been doing good, like Southern Miss and Fresno State, starting to slip a little bit. TCU and Texas A&M, who had good end of years last year, are also here in the top 25 in recruiting. South Carolina remaining here. Same with Indiana. A lot of Big Ten. Penn State, Indiana, and Michigan are also here. UCF, who we lost a recruit to, is trying to, put something together here. Reigning Pac-10 champs and Oregon State are here as well, and then Marshall and UCLA are rounding things out in the top 25. So we are seeing a little bit of change here in the college football landscape. Things are changing a little bit. We're seeing a little bit of that turnover in some of these teams really starting to solidify. It's just starting to actually, get better. I mentioned how Michigan had a lot of new guys on their team that were all actually like performing pretty well. We're so used to seeing on the rosters with these young teams, guys who have or teams that have receivers that are all in like the 70s and they're not doing anything as like juniors, you know what I mean? But like that's maybe not the case anymore. Maybe we're going to see a lot of teams like actually start to utilize a lot of those younger, higher-end prospects, and it might be a little bit harder to win. It might not be as easy, but as long as the SEC keeps getting worse outside of like Arkansas and South Carolina, I think we can probably weather the storm. You notice you didn't see hardly any other SEC teams in that top 25, so I think we should be all right. And with the training results, we have enough guys on defense returning where I think we'll be all right in the 90s. I really think the only place where we're super weak is receiving core. Everyone else was already young a year ago, so everyone else is just getting a little bit better, and that's going to continue to happen over the next couple of seasons, and I think in maybe a year or so, we're going to be really freaking good, really good. But Dre Gates returns as a junior up to a 97. So we don't have any bad quarterbacks behind him. An 89 and an 87, you'll start with that. So if things get bad for Dre Gates, we might be looking elsewhere. I don't know, guys. I don't want to throw that out there, but you have to consider it, considering the amount of interceptions. So Blackman also returns here, and now we have a new fullback, Jamal Sharp. He's a sophomore. He's going to be starting for us here. Jason McClintock is gone. Cliff Herman is our top receiver as a senior, and look at that drop-off, guys. Look at this drop-off, man. Completely rebuilt receiving core. This is probably the worst receiving core we've had since Sick Naven has taken over. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough year for throwing the football, guys. Clifford Jones, though, is returning as a senior as our starting tight end. LaTroy Jackson returns as our starting left tackle. Delvin Gill, of course, returning as our starting left guard at a 99. Kurt Bond is coming back as a sophomore, our starting center. Marion Bradley, of course, returns as our starting senior. Remember, I said I think both of our guards were our starters, but we have a lot of returning guys on the offensive line, which is good. We have a decent offensive line. Hopefully should protect the quarterback. Defensive line is a different situation. Both of our edge rushing situations, not great. But defensive tackle's pretty good. We got some depth there at the defensive tackler. John Costa, freshman All-American, so looking good there. Justin Ulrich is back on the left side. Nathan Ellison is back in the middle. 99s all around, baby. Lamar Price also back, so our linebacking core is familiar. Kevin Wagner is the only remainder of our cornerback room, but we have a lot of great prospects behind him, like Nat Bentley still here, and then some, solid sophomores and freshmen. So we shouldn't struggle with pass protection, or rather defense, either. So Sullivan's going to be starting free safety, and then John Paul as a junior up to a 95 is going to be our starting strong safety as well, with some good depth there. And Kendall Owens is our new kicker as a 78, so shouldn't worry too much about him. Hopefully he has a good freshman year. We kind of need him to have one. But we are going to move ahead now, and I'm calling this the light gauntlet, because this is definitely a tough season, but I'm calling this the light gauntlet, because I could have picked like Texas, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, but these teams are all ranked, and all from those big conferences, just a little bit lower. So we're taking on number 22 ranked Indiana, number 16 Oklahoma, and number 20 TCU. And after week 0, nothing changes too much here. We're ranked number 2 to start off the year, and Indiana's coming in ranked number 22 after having a good season last year. So maybe Indiana's finally starting to put something together. Who knows? It's just a new opponent, and we love having new opponents on the channel. So we're heading all the way up into Bloomington to play the Hoosiers. So I hope to see you guys there when we kick off year number 14. Goodness gracious, man. We're winding down, folks.